What if your purpose isn't something you find, but something you build? We're taught from a young age to look for meaning in jobs, status, and money, but almost no one talks about creation. I think that's why so many people feel like something is missing, even when their life looks completely fine on paper. When I was in high school, I felt completely empty. I was skilled in a few areas, but nothing I really did actually made me feel alive. Every day felt the same, and I just couldn't figure out why. It wasn't until I accidentally discovered something that I loved making that everything shifted. Not overnight, but enough that life started to feel meaningful again. I'm not trying to make a video about becoming financially successful or socially admired. This one is about how finding something to create gave me direction and how it could potentially do the same for you. So, why does real meaning in life feel harder to come by now? On paper, life is easier than it's ever been. Entertainment is infinite, information is everywhere, and we consume more content and art than any generation before us. Yet, something still feels missing. I find it oddly inhuman how surrounded we are by things to watch, listen to, and scroll through, but how rarely we actually make anything ourselves. I didn't understand this at the time, but when I was a junior in high school, I started doing something small that quietly changed everything. That summer, I'd tag along with my mom to her job downtown, not to watch her work, but just so I could wander the city while she was busy. I'd spend hours and hours on end just walking through stores, restaurants, and art galleries, purely out of curiosity. Didn't have a plan, no goal, I was just exploring. And one day, I stumbled into a certain place that shifted the direction of my entire life. I don't exactly remember why I walked in there, or what I expected to find. I just remember standing there longer than I meant to, looking at things that only existed because someone chose to make them. It just felt different from everything else I'd seen that day, even if I couldn't explain why yet. I didn't leave knowing what I wanted to do, but I left with a new question in my head. What would it feel like to be on the other side of that process? That place, it turns out to be a glass gallery. I walked in out of pure curiosity and with no expectation that it would matter at all in the long term. But something about it stuck with me, enough that I asked questions, and within a week, I had found a local glassblower and booked my first lesson. Now, I was cautiously optimistic about this lesson and didn't walk in thinking it would change my life. I really just wanted to try it out and get a feel for the medium. Looking back, this is the part that most people miss. I didn't find my purpose in that gallery that day. I had just made a small decision to try something, and everything that had followed that, it had to be built from there. The day I took that first lesson, I gotta say, my entire world shifted. The process of blowing glass was just immediately addicting. Even though the first thing I made looked absolutely awful, just the act of forming glass, working it with my hands, and realizing how many possibilities existed inside that medium, well, it had me hooked on the spot. From that point on, it just completely took over all of my attention. Every free moment I had, I was either teaching myself more about glass online, working on my own setup, or finding my way into the community of people who cared about it as much as I suddenly did. Now, I think most of you can achieve the same experience of finding a passion, but there's a part of this that a ton of people miss. Most of us are waiting to feel inspired before we start something. But I gotta say, inspiration usually shows up after we commit our attention to it. And that's why scrolling all day just feels empty, and even when it's entertaining, it's not asking anything of you. Creating something? Well, creating something absolutely does. And when a task asks something from you, it always gives something back. And that is exactly why I didn't stop after just that first lesson. I didn't wait to feel confident, or talented, or sure that it would lead anywhere. I just kept showing up and giving it my attention. One lesson turned into one more time in the studio, which turned into the realization that I wanted to take it seriously, even if it didn't make any sense on paper. I actually ended up taking it so seriously that the moment I turned 18, I moved across the country to study glass full-time. 2 years later, degree in hand, I started to realize something uncomfortable. The industry I had worked my way into wasn't exactly built to support a stable future financially. And I gotta say, that realization, it was extremely frustrating to come to terms with. But over time, something else became clear as well. Even if it never turned into the way I make my living, it had already given me something I wasn't willing to lose. Just the journey of chasing this passion led me to meet dozens of new friends and connections, along with having some of the coolest experiences of my life while doing so. And I believe that if you could find your own creative pursuit, the same thing can happen to you too. I still blow glass to this day. I also work a full-time job in a completely different field, and honestly, I really don't mind that separation. It lets my art stay what it was from the beginning, something I do because I want to, not because I have to. And looking back, I think that's why purpose feels so confusing for so many people. We're told it should arrive with ease, fully formed, profitable, and impressive. But in my experience, it just doesn't show up that way at all. It starts small, quiet, often inconvenient, and most of the time, it doesn't ask you to believe in it, it just asks for your attention. Glassblowing didn't give me a perfect career or a clear path forward, at all. What it gave me was a way to participate in my own life. It was something that made time just feel different. Something I was doing fully independently, and most importantly, it was something that I made with my own two hands. True passion, it doesn't just knock on the door one day and tell you it's time. I think it's something you build slowly, by choosing to make instead of just consume, and by sticking with something long enough for it to start giving back. And in my experience, that can happen pretty quickly, and it can happen to you too. You certainly don't need to know what that thing is yet. I didn't. You just need to start exploring and learning about the processes you genuinely find interest in. Real meaning in life is hiding right around a corner, so start thinking of where you can explore to find it. If this video meant something to you, or helped you think about your own creative path, that's more than enough for me. But if you want to support the work I'm doing here and the overall mission of Luminarium, consider subscribing to join a community of other real people just trying to spread a little bit of light. If this really resonated with you, you could also consider buying me a coffee, links below. Either way, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it, and I also really appreciate you. As always, keep your heads up, y'all.